Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Alameda Black History Month program. Oh my God, I should admit here that's now everybody's coming in, and I'm admitting people. The motto of this year is Black health and wellness, more important than ever, in my opinion, especially with the pandemic right now. And what can we do to be good to our physical health, but also to our mental health, which, we tend to forget, right? So I want to introduce Janae Darden. Janae Darden is an award-winning journalist, author, public speaker, and mental health advocate from Oakland. She hosts the weekly art segment Sights and Sounds and covers East Oakland for public radio station KALW 91.7 FM. Janae is the author of When a Purple Rose Blooms by the Nomadic Press, a collection of essays and poetry about her personal journey through Black womanhood. Learn more about her on her website, janaedarden.com. But for now, I really want to welcome you, Janae. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Jenny, for the welcome, and good evening, everyone. Happy Black History Month, happy Black Futures Month. That's what some people are calling it now. So yeah, just happy February, all that, Chinese New Year, all that good stuff. So so happy. I'm so happy to be here and to partake in this discussion. I love talking about health. And so we have some really amazing people that are going to be sharing some great information and enlightening us. Let me introduce them and read their bios. First up is Leela Richardson. Leela is an educational consultant and wellness practitioner specializing in massage therapy. Yes, we need some of that. and pre-postpartum doula care before becoming a wellness practitioner. Leela was a former high school dean of students, camp director, and after-school programs coordinator. She enjoys the Alameda community as a parent of two, an advocate, a practitioner where she feels her voice and contributions are welcomed. And when she's not spending time with family and friends, she enjoys nature, beekeeping. I need to ask her about that. Baking, and more. And next is Jasmine Canfield. Jasmine is a certified addiction specialist and licensed clinical social worker, currently working at Highland Hospital in Oakland. Jasmine was raised in Alameda and has advocated for marginalized and BIPOC communities with mental health issues and challenges with addiction in the nonprofit sector and the criminal justice system. So that's another person doing important work. So welcome, Jasmine. And last but not least, Parish Norfleet. Parish is owner and founder of Train in the Brain Fit Club. He's a business owner, consultant, fitness, athletic, and life coach, and soon to be published author. His book, Train the Brain and the Body Will Follow, is set to be released this summer. I'm training my brain to eat less chocolate. And we're going to talk to him about fitness and getting in shape. So welcome, everyone. Welcome to the panelists. Yay. So how I want to start is I want to ask, each of you, how that you got into this field of health. And so I'm going to start with Jasmine. And Jasmine, social worker, you work in addiction. So important, such an issue right now. But tell us, how did you become a social worker? What made you want to work with people who are struggling with addiction?
So thank you for having me, first and foremost. I kind of stumbled in this field a little bit. I've always had a way of wanting to help people and trying to figure out ways to how to do that. And I knew that I wanted to do something within counseling or the therapy realm. The easiest way for me at the time was through addiction and addiction treatment. And because it's so rampant, especially here in the Bay Area, as we have the Port of Oakland and Sacramento, which are two really big hubs in the United States anyhow, bringing in drugs, that there was a lot of access to enter into this field very easily. And it was from there, and also just having, friends and people that I know that had struggled with addiction, that I was really curious about it. And that's how I got into it and really started to understand harm reduction, understand wellness on many levels. And I wanted to learn more and more about it. So as I was going to school, had my sociology degree, but I decided to go back to school to get my master's in social work so that I can do more in-depth treatment with my clients. So it wasn't only about substance use counseling at that point, although I was certified in that. I wanted to be able to really get to a deeper root of the problem. So what I found was that a lot of times with people suffering with addiction is they're also suffering from a much deeper trauma. So really addiction is just really how people express one way of expressing a trauma. So that's how I got into this field.
Okay. And Leela, how did you get into, I know you do work as a doula and as a massage therapist. How did you get into both?
Yeah, I really appreciate what Jasmine had to say. Thank you for, what you had to say about just noticing like the trauma. I worked in education for a long time and worked with young people, families, and in that you see a lot of just hardship and struggle connecting to the trauma. You see the way it expresses in the body, expresses in whether it's attendance or academics. You see it in different ways. And I wanted to kind of look at a root in a different way and educate families in a different way around healing and wellness. And so I went into a doula training and I wanted to do some hands-on body work. And I kept looking at different trainings from there, like who is the doula that I want to be and what will that look like serving in my community. And I said, well, I want to be a massage therapist. I want to do prenatal, postnatal. And then that kind of opened it up to, well, I want to work on everybody. I want to make sure that folks who want to get healing will see someone that looks like them out there and say, like, this is for you too. I definitely was a recipient for body work and care and acupuncture and Reiki and practiced, yoga and did a yoga program. And I didn't see a lot of people that looked like me in a lot of those programs and even getting those services. But I was raised to be really open and I wanted to continue to like open that bridge for other folks. And so I went back to school. I left education, left my high school after 9 years and took a, leap of faith and went into doula work, massage therapy. I still work in education as a consultant, but this is my path right now. I own my own space and practice here in Alameda. And then as a doula, I kind of go wherever the people are. So that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, this different types of ways to maintain health and to take care of your body. And it's funny, I'm like, I'm trying to remember how many Black massage therapists I've had in my whole life. And I'm thinking maybe I can remember about 2. So, and I've had a lot of massages. So, and representation matters. So yeah, thank you. Parish. Where are you? Maybe I can. Let me change my screen. There you go. Let me unmute you.
Hey, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, how are you?
How's it going?
Good. So what made you get into fitness, like and coaching? So tell us, how'd you get into that?
Absolutely. Well, fun fact, me and Jasmine used to live in the same apartments when we was kids. So
Really?
That was a fun fact. But for me, I was always like into fitness from the aspect as an athlete, not necessarily coaching anybody else, but just an athlete. So for me, going into fitness, I started off coaching my son and a bunch of other kids, just doing it for free. And then I remember telling my mom one day, I'm going to make this a business, my business. It wasn't my business at the time. And so then I went and educated myself because I thought I knew everything just because I was an athlete. But then as I went and educated myself and got certified, I learned more things. And then as I started my own business, it really became one thing that I noticed for myself that I had to put into other people is that it's really about the mindset and habits, lifestyle habits. And so I use fitness as a way to help people make lifestyle habits that they can keep and challenge habits of old so that they can stay healthy, not just get in shape and be on a roller coaster, but to maintain fitness. And so for me, bringing people into my facility is an opportunity to challenge all habits, whether it's fitness related or any other habit that comes with lifestyle and goals. So that's why my company is Train the Brain Fit Club, and our slogan is Train the Brain and the Body Will Follow, because we really do focus on that.
Yeah, and I've always heard that, it starts with your mind. And as a mental health advocate, I always learn that your mental health affects your physical health affects your mental health.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so they're all intertwined. I want to ask each of you, do little mini interviews with each of you about the work that you do. And I'm gonna start with Leela. Leela, until we're going to talk about especially how your fields have changed in light of. And so, Leela, what needs have you seen mothers and birthing parents have in the age of COVID that, they didn't have before? What changes have you seen? Particularly, especially Black mothers too, and Black parenting.
It's interesting because I think the need is the same as far as like having a voice, having an advocate. Racism still affects health. I think the pandemic intensified and definitely is more visible for folks. But some of the same health concerns that were affecting women of color, folks of color, birthing folks of color are still the same things now. So whether it's high blood pressure that comes from like systemic racism, and we know that cortisol levels are increased because of, structural racism in the medical field. So those things have not changed. It's just there's a need, and then folks are recognizing that need. Thank goodness that need is being recognized. And so you're seeing phenomenal doula programs that are funded by the state, that are funded by the county, and encouraging even parents to become doulas and then go back into the same system that supported them. Programs like Sister Web out in San Francisco is one that like supports parents, and so to become trained, to become doulas, and then go back into specific communities. And that's a beautiful program. So I think you're seeing the need is intensified, but also some of the same structures are the same ones from before. And folks are starting to see like, oh, well, what is a doula? So they're asking more questions. Thank goodness for TikTok, social media. People are asking questions, they're becoming educated, they're finding out. We're breaking some of those barriers of when we thought things were for other people, especially in our Black community. We think, oh, that's for white folks, even though we don't think about our granny midwives and doulas in our communities. That's not old, that's us, reaching all the way back. And so I think we're stepping into that and realizing that we get to have healthy outcomes. So I've seen as far as awareness and knowledge change, and that's for all communities, especially folks of color. They're curious, and folks see like, oh, that can be a difference. And so they're reaching out and they're asking questions, and I think that's beautiful.
Yeah. It's funny. I have so many questions I want to ask you. I know we don't have all the time in the world, but one of my sorority sisters, she posted on Facebook just the other day, and I was just really startled what she posted. She said someone said to her that cops are to Black men as doctors are to Black women. And I said, my God,
Yeah.
And just this fear of that you're going to be abused in their care. Black women are 4 times more likely, I'm reading the statistic, to die from childbirth than white women. And I read that the U.S. maternal mortality rate has worsened in the last 25 years compared to most countries. And I'm also thinking about Bell Hooks, who recently passed away. And I was watching an old video of hers, and she was saying that she always took someone with her to the doctor because she was afraid that because of her age, because of her race and her gender, she wouldn't be taken seriously. How do doctors receive you when you go, with your patients, your clients, maybe to appointments? If you're in the delivery room, how are you received?
Yeah, I think the climate, I've been lucky, I can't speak for everyone's experience, but I think the climate has been challenged, and at least here in the Bay Area, there's different pockets, in Oakland, Berkeley. I can only speak to those 2 cities. I haven't worked in Alameda. but I've been received well. I've been received in a way that people know, like, this is your doula, this is speaking to me and the client, which I think is really valuable, like having that acknowledgement. But again, like I said, I think people are more receptive, they understand. But we're in the Bay Area, and I can't speak to all areas in this country where it's alarming the things that folks are still hearing, that birthing folks are still hearing. I mean, you know, it's I don't know, it's mind blowing that we're hearing still women are not taken seriously for their pain, their conditions. When you think about trans folks are not being taken seriously about their pronouns and how they want to be received in a space. So there's a lot of complications, and I think that, you know, when you have an advocate, whether it's your person, whether it's your parent, whether it's an elder, I think, you know, having someone in the space with you is still really vital. And I remember that. I remember being a kid, and that was the way my mom went to people, to their appointments. My mom went to my great grandmother's appointments. That seems to be something that was in the Black community for a long time that we've maybe gotten away from. But the reason why that was happening, because we weren't heard and we weren't valued, especially as we started to not see a lot more Black doctors or community doctors. And so, and, you know, are in larger medical you know, kind of corporation health. So, yeah.
What are some services or some things that you do as a doula that some of your clients, or I don't know if you call them clients or patients, that they're surprised, like, oh, that comes with a doula does that? Is there anything that?
Yeah, you know, I love being a massage therapist because I love being able to physically work with my clients. And me personally, massage therapy is included in my sessions. That's not included in everyone's session. It's great to be able to specialize as a prenatal massage therapist as well, and also postpartum, so what happens in the body. I also am like a novice herbalist and believe in plant medicine, so a lot of herbs and like food and nutrition, a lot of recommendations there. I'm not like prescribing anything, but I can definitely recommend things that are part of someone's diet or already a part of their cultural foods, and just saying, okay, well, this is really great. Continue this. This is something you already eat. It's a part of you. Let's just increase that more, or, you know, diversify it by adding other things in. So I love that. I like, you know, body scrubs and body butters and oils, and adding those to my services is great. And then, you know, exchanging with people recipes and other products that people make. That's also great too. But that's my favorite thing, is to do the body work with my clients.
And you mentioned earlier about programs, and that all sounds, I mean, I'm not a mother, but I was like, that all sounds heavenly to me. Body butters, massaging herbs, you got me there. I was like, I love all of that stuff. But when, and you mentioned earlier about, you know, programs to support, you know, birthing parents, mothers who want to use doula services. And I was reading too, you know, some insurance companies don't cover these services, or some do. I think if you have Medicare or something, you may be able to get it covered. You know, is that changing, or is there more financial access now for people who want these services? Because particularly for Black women and birthing parents, especially looking at Black women, because we don't make the full dollar, right? I think we make 70 cents or something, $1.67, something like that. So.
Yeah, you know, and I want to big up midwives as well in this practice. Like, I'm a doula and I help with labor support, but midwives deliver the baby. And so definitely Black midwives are accessible and out here, especially in the Bay Area. And I just wanted to say midwives are also available to support at home births, our birthing centers. And so when we think about how people have access, we think whether it's through state sponsor like Medi-Cal or Medicaid. You're starting to see like Contra Costa County has a program where they can connect, let's say, a Medi-Cal recipient with a doula, San Francisco, Alameda County. And so you're seeing more of those programs pop up throughout our area here in the Bay Area. And then nonprofit organizations, like I said, like Sister Web, there's another one I can't think of. San Francisco does a lot of great work around preterm health and wellness. And so there's a lot of services and resources there, and they do great workshops and connecting people with doula and midwives. And so there's a lot of great resources in that way. And then there was another aspect to this that people don't realize. When we think about baby showers, we spend a lot of money on baby showers. Many folks say, you know, you can raise money for a midwife, you can raise money to hire a doula. And so when we think about how we spend our money on, you know, I don't know, gender reveal parties. We can also save money to have a doula and labor support or postpartum. And so many midwives and doulas encourage families to, you know, gather their monies together to support that process too. So just, you know, opening the door for how people can access, and also, you know, paying providers for their services, right? We want to make sure that we're continuing, that this is a livelihood for many of us, and we want to make sure it's sustainable. So, you know, fundraise, you know, mutual aid, you know, GoFundMe, whatever you got to do, tithing, you know, making sure folks can have the funds to get doulas and midwives.
Yeah, and shout out, like you said, shout out to midwives. My grandmother's grandmother was a midwife. So as you said, we've been doing this in our culture for centuries. So yeah, so this is nothing new, but it's something that's coming back.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's something that's coming back. I'm gonna switch it to Jasmine. I said Medicare earlier. I'm about to say Medicare. I'm gonna switch it to Jasmine. Jasmine.
Howdy.
Hello. So, you know, we've lost a lot of famous people to addiction recently. DMX, actor Michael K. Williams, Shock G, the local talent Shock G, Frankie, the mother of singer Keisha Cole. And so it seemed like so often in the news we're seeing this happen to people who are dying from overdoses. How is addiction looking in 2020 for Black people? Is, you know, it's been a lot. Addiction is suicide. How is this all impacting us differently?
It's been rough. It was nice to hear Leila speak about how the positive things that are happening, right, in that field. It's not as positive in my field right now. 2020 hit us big, and addiction usually, like I mentioned earlier, is rooted in a trauma, right? And a lot of times, if we have this perfect storm of what COVID did, which was a trauma that we've all experienced, but we all know that it hit the Black and Brown communities a lot harder than it hit other communities, right? Mm-hmm. There was also isolation. There was also lack of medical care that people were having. Also that COVID, since it hit our communities a lot harder, we saw a lot more deaths in our community and had to deal with that. Also weren't able to attend funerals, weren't able to be in the hospitals with people, weren't able to be there while people were dying. So it really impacted people's mental health severely. Mm-hmm. And alcohol use was up across the board, but it definitely, I mean, when you have, there are certain neighborhoods that just have way more liquor stores than others.
Oh, yeah.
So when the access, and that actually was not closed down. So I'll just put that out there. Liquor stores were not closed during the pandemic, right? That they actually stayed open. And then you also have the opioid epidemic, right? So unfortunately, during the Trump administration, there was a lack of funding for opiate use, opioid treatment. And there was more funding going into treating people while they're incarcerated rather than treating people that needed it, that actually weren't being arrested at the time, right? So there was a lot of strategies around like, let's just lock people up and then they'll get treatment there. But when they leave, they still don't have those services available to them. And in addition to that, what's compounded was that you also had a lot of places that people would go to for support that because of the pandemic weren't open, right? So 12 steps, AA meetings, NA meetings, even here at Highland Hospital, we shut everything down. Things went virtual. And for people who don't always have access to the internet, don't have a stable internet connection, maybe don't have a cell phone that's in working order, maybe don't have a smartphone, not even a computer, that just kind of impacts the isolation even more. But what was available was alcohol, what was available was crack, what was available was methamphetamine, what was available was fentanyl in grandiose amounts. So as we started to open up, we started to see people coming into mental health and substance use treatment in droves.
Were a lot of these people first time identifying as, having addiction problems?
Yes. So we have had a lot of people who, and I would say there was a lot of people for the first time, they realized that they had a problem, alcohol primarily, because that's something that, that's kind of what people do, right? We have a celebration, we drink, we got to pour some out for the homies, and then we have a sip for ourselves, right? So like that's, it's normalized. When you start mixing that with other things to kind of mask the pain and mask the trauma that we've been through, not to mention, I mean, I don't want to discount, but I have to speak to the fact that we all witnessed George Floyd. We've all witnessed Ahmaud Arbery, and it wasn't until I feel like that was just, these are shared traumas that we've all experienced, and we experienced it when the world is completely shut down. And it seems like the world had to shut down for people to actually realize how impactful that it was. And there really wasn't any place for that trauma to go, except for a bottle or a pipe or a needle, right? So when we started to open up, we started to see people who really were struggling. And it was interesting to me that I started to see a lot of people of color, a lot of Black people coming in, and that was what they were talking about, right? So they were talking about the people that they lost during COVID. They were talking about racism that they've experienced implicitly or explicitly, and the mental health issues that were coming along with that. So unfortunately, though, because of the lack of funding during the Trump administration, there hasn't been a lot of funding put into these programs in community mental health. So there aren't a lot of us, and there aren't a lot of people of color in this work, right? There aren't a lot of Black therapists out there. And we're trying to build that up, but that also speaks to our educational system as well. It's like, a lot of money that goes into doing this type of work. So it's been a struggle, but we're here. And we're working overtime, and we're doing whatever we can to help.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about as far as your workload, because I remember people were scrambling to get a therapist, and it was hard. Yeah, I have a therapist, and luckily I had her locked in, but it was, she was working, her hours were just, yeah, she was working nonstop. I was worried about her mental health. Like I would ask her, like, how are you? I was like,
the therapist needs a therapist. Let's just say self-care, it goes all around. So yeah, I would say that everyone that I've talked to in the field, the caseloads are way higher than they've been before. Wait lists, right? So you have people that are waitlisted, unfortunately, to get into care. So you have people that are like, well, how severe is this, right? How severe is your drug use? How severe is
still now there's a wait list, and still now you're overwhelmed, or the workload for a lot.
The workload is a lot. It's a lot. The funding has to come, it's trickling in, right? We're still in a pandemic. We're still focused on COVID. I don't know if you've seen in the news, there are some mayors that are doing some work in San Francisco on what are we going to do with people overdosing in the streets, right? What are we going to do with needles in the streets? It's still a problem, and even still, the solution to the problem was let's lock them up. And there's been a huge push, and I also used to work at Santa Rita for a couple of years, to just lock them up, and that's where they get treatment.
Right. Yeah, and I did a story about that, sort of about how like prisons have become, places to treat people with mental health challenges. They call it the new mental health hospital, or the prisons. And being in prison is traumatic, so that affects you, PTSD, depression, and all those other issues. What about other addictions? Do people come to you for other addictions? Some people are addicted to porn. Maybe they develop addiction to porn, to sex, to food. Did you see other people come in with other addictions, social media, because of isolation that people are still struggling with?
Yeah, so gambling is a big one. And it's really easy because you can gamble on your phone. You can liquor store again. You can go and get your scratchers. You can go get your lottery ticket. A lot of times with scratchers, it feels like immediate satisfaction. Because I work specifically in a substance use treatment department or a treatment program, that would be a secondary addiction for us, right? The county is funding specifically for substance use treatment. And so we have some people that are coming in with these secondaries, which would be gambling, which would be sex addiction. There's food. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Those two would be the top. Social media is another one where it's like we're really trying to peel people off, but they don't even see that as an addiction, honestly. So it's really like trying to like increase people's awareness around like the usage of it. Cannabis, that's another one. People don't necessarily think of that as a substance that's to be misused or overused or overutilized, especially because, hey, it's the Bay Area and it's legal, it's California. And I'm not here to shame anyone, but if you're waking up at 6:30 in the morning and you gotta have, you know, I gotta do this so I can eat, you know, like, I don't have an appetite unless I smoke some weed in the morning, you know, like.
Edible.
Yeah, we may need to explore, we may need to unpack that, right? So there are things that people will come in for something specific, right? Where there's fentanyl is huge, opiates are huge, methamphetamine is rampant in the jails and outside.
Is it rampant within the Black community? Because when I hear about death, I always hear about white folks. So it's definitely impacting Black community.
Yes, so I will say that really it's generational, right? So if you are probably Gen X and maybe older, maybe like older millennial, what they call them, exennials, I guess, I don't know, like the early millennials, it might be crack, right?
Okay, so like if you born, because I'm considered Zennial, Gen X, so I'm born late 70s. So you like early 80s, late 70s. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I would say from maybe mid to late 80s and younger is methamphetamine.
Okay.
And it is in the Black community. So a lot of times we have this idea of, oh no, Black people don't do meth. That's white people, that's these neighborhoods. But meth is extremely easy to get and it's very expensive. The high lasts longer. So
crack?
Yeah, longer than crack.
Oh, wow, okay.
So people feel like they're getting more bang for their buck. And especially when you have people losing their jobs, they're out of work or they're isolated and they have nothing to do. This is something to do. And methamphetamine, that high can last anywhere from one crystal or an ounce, hours, days, where it might not be as long if you were to use crack cocaine, which was much that, as we know, was created specifically for the Black community. And now methamphetamine is now rampant.
Right. I want to ask you something before I jump to Parish. And I don't know if you can answer this or not. It's about suicide. We're seeing a lot of stories on suicide of Black youth dying by suicide. What's going on with that? Why are we seeing so much suicide? Because in the Black community, you know, people often say suicide is a white thing. And I always come back at Black folks when they say that. I'm saying our ancestors jumped off slave ships when they were transported here because it was so traumatic, you know, and what they experienced. So suicide is not new. We've been, you know, killing ourselves for a while. So this is not new, but we're hearing more about it now. So yeah, can you speak on that?
Absolutely. So even to just kind of piggyback off of what you just said, our ancestors were jumping off slave ships. Our ancestors were killing themselves and their babies, right?
Beloved.
To avoid slavery, to not have to endure that trauma. So we are experiencing this an equal type of trauma here, right? Especially with this pandemic, especially with constant social media and news media showing Black people being murdered, right? Black people being assaulted, to the point where I had to take a pause. Like, I can't watch anymore because it's impacting me. in a negative way. So it seems when people are feeling hopeless, when people are feeling like there's nowhere to go, there's nowhere to turn, that is the option, right? Suicide is the option. And so to piggyback from, here we go, this is what happened in the past, this is what's happening in the present. When it feels like there is no other option, this is what people do. Black people are not exempt to that at all. And so I think when things get really dire and we haven't had that community as we've had before, it has been dismantled due to many attacks on the Black community, which is why this has become so prevalent amongst young Black people, right? Where they see that people aren't living past a certain age, right? People are being gunned down before they hit 35, or people are sitting in a car and like, I'm not doing nothing. I'm minding my business and being shot and killed. And it seems really hopeless. And that's one of the key elements when people are considering suicide or experiencing suicidal ideation, is when they feel like there's nothing else that they can do. Their situation seems absolutely hopeless.
So how do you, because you deal with so much, all of you, but you're dealing with people who are struggling with addiction, suicidal ideation, all of that. How do you, how do you leave that in the office and, take care of yourself? Because I was interested in being a psychologist when I was younger. And then I was a peer counselor. I said, I can't do it. So how do you, I was like, that's not my ministry. So how do you take care of yourself carrying all that weight?
I think from what everybody on this panel was talking about, I'm looking at Parish. What's up, Parish? I'm just gonna say, that's old school right there.
Yeah.
But I had to get a therapist, right? Like I had to make sure that my mental health was okay. I had to lean on my friends. I had to build my community. If I felt like my community was lacking, I had to get body work, right? Like I started working out for the first time ever, really. So I got a trainer. So like all of those things, everyone that's on this panel here, these are the things that, you got to do in order to take care of yourself. So mental health and body work and exercise and eating right and having a community of people who are positive and really protecting your energy. I really feel like that's a big part of, I can't do negative energy. I deal with a lot of trauma in my work. I got sage in my corners, my office. I got sage over here. I got Palo Santo over there. Like I don't mess with my energy, right? Like I need to make sure that if I'm not in a space that if I'm at home or if I'm around people or in public and the energy doesn't feel right to me, I have to excuse myself. I have to have those boundaries. So that's what helps me to stay sane. When I walk into these doors at Highland, I know I'm walking into trauma. I know I'm walking into some really heavy energy, right? So I need to be able to protect myself and then also leave this space and be able to kind of shed all of that so that I can do the things, continue to come back and do the work, right?
Yeah, and what you just shared, those are things that people can do no matter what.
Absolutely.
They work. Yeah, because I worked in offices where people, I would smell sage. I'm like, what are you doing burning sage in the office? But I understand. I understand. I'm gonna switch to Parish. We were talking about addiction and things that, some unhealthy habits people picked up during the pandemic. And Parish, we've been eating. We've been drinking and we've been eating. So for you, what changes did you see from your clients as far as when it came to fitness? Because people are trying right now, they're trying to lose that pandemic weight.
Yeah. I was sitting here just listening to the ladies as they were talking, and I know for me, and I've been told by like doctors that fitness is often a bridge of health to keep people from necessarily having to go to the hospital. Like there's a relationship between self-care through fitness, and especially with me, the mental side of it, to help keep people as healthy as possible. But as I'm listening to the ladies here, I can see that same bridge. As they were speaking, I'm like, what I do is something that could be used as a bridge in both of those worlds. Whether it's women who are going through pregnancy or after pregnancy, whether it's individuals of any age that are aware and wanting to fight through addiction, they need other outlets that they can use. And like Jasmine said, she mentioned it, you asked her how does she keep, one of the things was she started working out for the first time. By the way, we call it training. We don't work out, we train because we're training the brain. And so that the body will follow. But that is truly an outlet. So I feel like, and I probably didn't answer your question at all because I was sitting here waiting to hold on to that. But it's a connection between what they're saying. I'm actually just, I'm glad to have the light from what they do, because it allowed me to see that light bulb go off, that this is a connection in more ways than just to ordinary health, but every aspect of health. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
But you asked me how have I seen a change in fitness and
yeah. And before you answer that question, let me just ask something right quick. For people that are watching, we're gonna open up the chat for questions in about 12 minutes. So if you have a question, we'll open up the chat for you to type it in, and then you can ask our panelists a question. So I just wanted to bring that up. But yes, what changes have you seen as far as with clients, just since COVID? Because we were, like I said, we were shut in, people gained weight. I know I was having some issues because I was sitting a lot. I'm a reporter. So, when something like this happens, we got to go hit the pavement and cover it. So I was sitting a lot typing, and I felt my body, get stiff. So what changes have you seen, especially with Black people? A lot of us were frontline workers too, as well. So that impacts our physical health too, as well.
Well, so one of the things that I do, I specialize in corrective exercise for things of that nature. But one of the things that I definitely saw is more people, when they were told they had to stay inside, the one thing they wanted to do was go outside and exercise. Right. Like that was the main thing. I remember, I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, right? And I remember when you would go outside, and there were actually people outside, like walking and jogging. And I was telling my son, and when we would go outside, and there were families, like whole families, the mom, the dad, the kids, all out there, people on bikes, people exercising. So I can definitely say that more people, even if they were pretending, were actually outside and looking to get more physical activity in than I think ever before, or at least since the mid 2000s up until now. Definitely.
Yeah, it's true, because I do remember seeing, I saw kids, because we grew up around the same time, and I was like, I'm seeing kids riding bikes again. You couldn't get bikes. But also too, there's an issue for some people, depending where the neighborhood they live in. I grew up in East Oakland. I live in Alameda now. Where some people, they may not feel comfortable walking in their communities. They may not feel comfortable taking a bike out because they might get robbed. Unfortunately, that's the reality for some of us in the communities. What are things that people can do, maybe if they don't have access to a safe place to train?
Virtual training was one of the things that definitely came, and people turned it into a business. And so there are so many outlets now that you can use, like the one that we're on right now, Zoom. And you can have access to coaching. I still right now, today, have clients that I work with that we do our sessions via Zoom. And so that's just an instant outlet that you have to still get fitness, to still get coaching. You can join group classes or personal training, and you can do that from your home. And then that's assuming that you do have, internet and all those things that you need. But also there's nonprofit organizations, one that I just got approached about that I know of that's in the works, but that are working to go into those communities and create transportation to areas like where I coach. My gym is in San Ramon. And also camps. I ran camps before the pandemic where we would do camps in the summer. It was 5 days a week. So now there's camps, the camps that will come into those communities. Like we're working on doing one this summer in Oakland. It's going to be in West Oakland. So camps, and then setting up transportation to come out and see. And I think that's a big thing. If you live in a community, it doesn't mean that you're bound to the community. I believe that people almost celebrate being bound to a community. And in my opinion, from growing up in certain communities and now moving and going around in other communities, that is detrimental to feel bound to a community. To the fact that certain individuals are not comfortable even going to other communities, even if they have the means to do so. They are intimidated to go into a community like a San Ramon if they are from East Oakland. Even like the Safeway up there by Merritt College, I remember having cousins like, I'm not going up to that Safeway, that's the white people Safeway, but they're actually scared, like for real. And so changing the mindset of believing that you are only bound to the community that you are born into is big too. So it comes back to mindset. You know, you got to think outside of that box.
I agree. Now I'm also thinking about too, you know, so much of the racial tension. So I know sometimes people are like, they may not feel safe in that space. They may feel like if they go to San Ramon, if they go in the hills, that because they're Black, they're gonna, they're gonna stand out. But I also too see what you're saying too, like, thinking outside the box too, as far as like, go to the marina in San Leandro and walk, or even connecting like Girl Trek, which is a walking group, for Black girls and Black women that I've been a part of, and we go all kind of places together. Yeah, I'm just thinking of that too, or even just kind of like connecting with other Black people to find out what are safe spaces that are outside your community, where you feel comfortable, because I know that was an issue too in 2020.
I think that exposure is important. And so let's say it's a young male that is that runs track, or he's a boxer, or he plays football, and it doesn't just have to be athletes. However, sometimes the athletic avenue can be like the girls' trip going out to go walk. If you come out here and you're training and you're on a 7-on-7 team that happens to be in San Ramon, it gives you an opportunity to, or wherever, it gives you an opportunity to get exposed to being in that environment and being more comfortable. I know a family that did it the opposite way. They live in Black Hawk, and their kids, they call it the bubble. And they were so concerned about their kids growing up in this bubble and how all the kids operated within the bubble that they purposely sent their kids to go to Oakland and play football in Oakland. So while their parents worked hard to earn all this stuff, they were concerned about the mindset of their kids growing up in a bubble. So they sent them to play 3 years of football in Oakland. And so if it can work that way, it can definitely work the opposite way. So,
Are those Black kids?
No.
Oh, interesting.
But all the kids that they were around were, and
Right.
Not only did they go play football, they built relationships, and they were spending the night at these kids' homes in Oakland. Like these kids got a big old mansion out here, but that's the point. Their parents wanted them to understand the world is bigger than this, and you can't just grow up in this bubble. So I'm saying if someone of that mindset can do it from their end, we should definitely be doing it the other way around. The world is bigger than this block. It's bigger than these blocks that you grow up in. And sometimes you can use avenues like fitness or sports to help open the world up. It's a good way to get that exposure.
Wow, that's interesting. So train the brain and the body will follow. So
Yes.
I'm trying to train my brain, like I said, to be like, okay, Janae, get motivated. Come on. And I know that's your business, so I don't want you to put all your secrets out. But what are some things that we can do to train our brains for those of us who need to motivate ourselves to work out more? How do we train our brains?
Well, I'm writing a book, so it's going to all be anyway.
You don't buy the book. That's how you train your brain.
But one of the main ways is having a worthwhile goal, and if you care to do so, working towards that worthwhile goal. That's one of the ways. Also, not being afraid to identify weaknesses and then train and turn them into strengths. Now, that's easily done in the gym by way of fitness. Let's say you can't do a push-up and you train until you can do 20, 30, 40, 50, right? But if we also identify more important weaknesses that affect every part of your health, physically and mentally, then you will overcome not just doing push-ups in the gym, but financial issues or relationship issues, stress, addictions. All those things can be targeted when you identify a weakness and then train until even that weakness becomes a strength. And so I'll tell you what I mean. For instance, let's say, for example, a kid in the inner city, he's struggling with math, just to make it not so harsh, but let's say it's math. And with this math, they just, I can't do it. I can't get any tutors. I can't do it. But if they identify what the real weakness is, maybe they're not comprehending exactly what the math question is asking. If they put in the extra energy and effort to actually become good at it, and once they become good at it, they just change their weakness into a strength. And I feel like identifying weaknesses first is the most powerful step that a person can take. They have to identify the weakness first, be honest with themselves, identify the weakness, and if they care to do so, train until it becomes a strength.
So it sounds like even like having compassion for yourself, right? With their weakness, like that weakness, you're not beating yourself up. You're like, hey, I have this weakness and I'm gonna do my best to make it better.
Self-empowerment for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Self-empowerment. Really, like when you're able to, because I don't see it as beating yourself up. I see it as being able to challenge one thing at a time and you feel empowered by it. It's an accomplishment. It's achieving a goal. Even milestones, when they're reached, that's something that should be celebrated because it takes you on the path to your ultimate goal. Let's say you want to stop drinking soda. Okay, right? And so for 30 days, you don't drink no soda. And then now you don't want soda no more and you never drink soda again. That's something that you just accomplished. It was once a weakness. Your weakness was you drink soda. Let's say you procrastinate. You don't ever get things done. You procrastinate.
That's how Leela go.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I don't know if I'm talking to some people, but
You're talking to some people.
If you procrastinate. So we have this form to kind of answer your question again too. We have this form that we have people do. It's our habit goal form. And we have people write down their top 5 goals and their top 5 worst habits, because these are the habits that are preventing you from reaching your goals. And then we tell them to choose one. They choose one. Let's say it's procrastination. And we're going to focus on the positive, which would be the opposite of procrastination, which would be to get it done immediately. Just get it done and put stuff on your, on your to-do list that you can actually accomplish. And we only focus on the positive for 30 days. And every day we focus on never procrastinating, but only the positive of actually getting it done. So strengthening your weaknesses and training in that manner is self-empowerment. And it's what we work on. I open the door for this when people come in for fitness. I'm smiling inside because they don't even know that this is coming. Yeah. They're thinking, especially looking at me, I'm about to yell at them and tell them to jump and spring. And then we start talking about, changing bad habits and lifestyle changes.
So you tap into that energy, into the mind, and then you get the body going. Wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah, which is kind of what all of you do. So thank you for that, Parish. I'm going to open it up for questions. Or is the chat, did people put questions in the chat? Or Jenny from the...
I did. Sorry, hi. Thank you. Oh, man, it's so interesting. I could just listen for another hour, if not longer. This is so much good information. Thank you. I'm looking at the chat right here, and I don't see anything.
Can people put anything? Did you open the chat or?
I don't think I have that.
Right now, it seems like the only people that can put in the chat are hosts and co-hosts.
Oh, is that right? Okay, let me. Security maybe.
If you have a question, raise your hand.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, Rashid just said they couldn't put anything in the chat.
Yeah, so. I just switched it. Try it again.
Okay, so the people can. Sorry about that, folks.
It should be working right now. I'm sorry about
Yeah, now I
that.
see the chat. Now I see the chat.
Yeah, Rashid, question time.
Yeah, question
Okay.
time. So people can put something in the chat. Sorry, those with your burning questions. If you could put something in, put a question in the chat for this panel full of knowledge and wisdom, getting our health right. Anybody has any questions?
I had one and I forgot it.
Oh.
Anybody wants to add a comment while we wait questions to come in?
Can I say something?
Of course.
Okay, so it seemed really dire what I shared earlier, so I do want to say.
I was going to ask you about some hope. So yeah, there's some hope.
So there is hope, right?
Yeah.
There are treatments that are available. As I mentioned before, with the change of administration, there has been a lot of the funding is coming in. California has actually been one of those states that actually has been really strong with funding for substance use. So with Obamacare, the way that California expanded it through Medi-Cal was that you were able to use Medi-Cal to get into substance use treatment, which was not something that was available. It was usually for women who were pregnant. So we were now seeing an increase of men who didn't have children, right? So, and women who didn't have children entering treatment. So I will say that there now is a lot of avenues that people can get into, whether it be private care with a Kaiser or Sutter Health. There's Medi-Cal, there's Medicare also now pays for substance use treatment. So there are avenues to get into. Also, I cannot think of, there's this website called BEAM, BEAM.com, which is a website for Black therapists. So if you were looking specifically for a therapist of color or a Black therapist, you can go to beam.com and you can type in what area that you're looking for. They're not in every state, but they are in California. And so you're able to find therapists that way, because it really is difficult to find a therapist of color. But though there are little beams of hope. Parish had mentioned virtual training. And I think that also with the pandemic really helped for access for people who have access to internet, who have access. So I don't want to say that people who struggle with substance use dependency, that they don't have access to these, so that there is no this is crossing all color lines. It crosses socioeconomic classes. So being able to be online is definitely a way of seeing a therapist, meeting with a therapist if you're not able to meet with one in person. So
yeah, and some people, they use phone too as well.
Absolutely.
Phone. So even if you don't have access to internet, or someone who doesn't have access to internet, I know some therapists, they do phone consultation too. So,
and for the Gen Zs, a lot of texting. So there actually are ways that you can actually just text now, and Gen Zs are let's get it done. So
they just texting during the whole appointment.
They text. These are usually check-ins in between.
Okay. I didn't know if it was how are you doing? I'm fine. Tell me what's going on. Okay. So it's not like this.
Yeah.
I was
it's an in-between chat. They usually do a session that's usually 50 minutes. And then in between, if it's because it's kind of expensive in the Bay Area. So they'll usually be I can meet with you once a month, and then we'll do these check-ins via text message. So, and that seems to work for a lot of people.
Okay. Thank you for adding the hope. I was gonna the hope. And also, I just want to mention too, one more thing before we get into the questions, is that all of us on this panel have some kind of connection to Alameda. We've either lived here, worked here. I live here now, from here. So I just wanted to mention that. So there's Alameda roots on this panel. Yes, you're going to say something, Jenny.
Yeah, I just want to relay some of the questions I see in the chat. Leah, can you speak more about how to find a good massage excuse me, practitioner. My English is leaving me tonight.
That's okay.
And then we have another question. Jasmine, please speak about the homeless situation in Oakland. Who's going to help these folks in the tents? More and more people are homeless. And that's something that I would like to comment on too, is just because we're not seeing people on the street anymore doesn't mean the problem is solved. It's just, means that, I'm sorry, enough rich people were too uncomfortable and now put them somewhere else, so it's not their problem anymore, but people are still struggling. So what we're gonna do about it?
So let's answer that question, the homelessness, and then we
Yeah.
can ask Leela about massaging.
Yeah, obviously there definitely is a homelessness problem, right? And I think to Jenny, to your point, there was just something on NPR a couple of days ago that was talking about counting homeless people that are not just on the street, but also who do not actually have a stable place to live. And so a lot of times what's associated with homelessness is drug use, right? A lot of times people are like, I don't want to see these people because they're using drugs. And that's, I like, as a harm reductionist, and just to explain what a harm reductionist is we're not necessarily abstinence only, right? A harm reductionist will say, let's meet people where they are. If somebody is still using, it's not the time to tell them, hey, stop using, that's not good for you. It's what strategies can we use to reduce the harm. So this is where we have things like safe injection sites that they're talking about in San Francisco County and in Alameda County, specifically Oakland and San Francisco, right? Where there are places where people can go and to use safely while they have nurses and doctors available, safe kits that they can use so that they're not spreading diseases, right? And so I think as far as the homelessness problem goes, this is what we're seeing when we have the increase, right, of housing. We don't have a lot of housing available. I also read another article about how there was an increase of the population in Oakland, and there was maybe 500 or 5,000 units that were actually developed, which was nowhere near what was needed to house the people here. So there's that issue impacted with, like, it's just really expensive to find a place to stay. And again, once we have these really dire, hopeless situations, people turn to things that are immediately going to help them feel better in the time being, but also have challenges in the end, right? So there are some programs that are available, abode housing being some of them. They do a lot of really good work. There are Catholic charities that actually help people pay for their rent, or rental assistance. The Salvation Army, these are also programs that are really helpful. But I think that with these things, it's limited if we don't actually have places for people to go, resources for them, right, to support them. We're putting more money into Santa Rita and the San Quentin than we're doing for the people that are out there. And also to mention that the people who are leaving Santa Rita also don't have a place to go, right? So like they put them there, they lock up the homeless, and then they like can't really keep them there forever. You know, being broke is not a crime. It's not supposed to be. But then when you get released, where are you supposed to go afterwards? So there really hasn't been a lot of solution to this problem, and it's just a multifaceted issue that needs to be fixed.
Thank you for that answer. Leela, what about massaging? How do you, I think the question was,
where can I look to find a good massage therapist? Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
Well, a couple of things I just wanted to just add on to about people experiencing homelessness and folks who are, dealing with housing insecurity. Even if you're living with your aunties, right, or you're living with a friend, like that's still folks who are dealing with housing insecurity, right? So there's Freedom Community Clinic here in Oakland that provides body work care. They're having an event that's coming up that's also about care for the community and dealing with folks who are, dealing with housing insecurity. And so that's a wonderful time for people to receive additional care, right? So when we talk about like, how can I find a massage therapist? I went into this work wanting to be able to, make sure folks have access who don't always have the resources, right? And so you'll go to a place like this and be able to meet a massage therapist, an acupuncturist, a Reiki specialist, all kinds of different modalities of care. I think someone's even doing facials and hair. You got folks out there doing haircuts. So really the community, what I've seen, has really come together in these last couple of years when we think about, you know, dealing with folks who are dealing with insecurity. So that's just something that's out there. For as far as when you're looking for your own practitioner, whether it's for therapy, you know, even if it's for massage therapy, you know, you can look things up online. The National Holistic Institute, I graduated from there. It's a wonderful resource as far as like you can Google National Holistic Institute and you can look at their services, their providers. A lot of them are already registered there. But also if you're, you know, wanting to get into massage therapy and you don't have a lot of resources or funds, the cost for getting a really great massage from a student that's learning is really affordable for many people. It's not free, but at least it's cheaper than what the market rate is. So I just wanted to shout out your schools of therapy. Massage therapy will also have like clinics, which will translate to like lower cost care. So any type of massage therapy school that's in your area, call them up, see if they offer a clinic. You usually get like a lower cost. And then as far as when you're looking for your own person, I would ask the same questions you'd ask your therapist, right? You want to be safe. You want to make sure consent is important. Maybe you want someone that looks like you. You want to know what they specialize in, what are their modalities. Maybe you like Thai massage, you want stretching. Maybe you've never heard of it. So asking questions, asking all the questions. I love a lot of questions. You want to make sure that they communicate with you. You know, before your session starts, you should at least have a couple of types of communication with your massage therapist. If you're thinking about a private person, of course, if you're going to a spa or a boutique place, that's a different, you have like a little bit of interaction, especially with COVID, they're really limiting your conversations with your massage therapist to limit your in-person interaction. But if you're going to a private person, then you want to have those conversations with them before. A lot of the intake forms are online. Please tell them all your information. That's how people know how to like help your body heal itself, is if they have all the information. And if you're finding that you're not comfortable with your massage therapist, tell somebody, tell them, tell who they work for, let someone know what's not making you feel comfortable. Make sure they have your pronouns, make sure that they address any concerns that you have, any ailments, any, you know, illness, any contraindications are really important. So knowing if you're on a medication or if there's any type of anything happening in your body. Massage is not for everybody at all the time, right? So if you just sprained your ankle, you're like, I just want someone to massage it. That's not a good time to get a massage. If you've just had surgery, right? So those things are important. And sometimes we think like, oh, it's nothing. I don't need to tell them. No, you need to tell your massage therapist like you would tell your doctor. You know, if there's something that of medicine that you're taking that's, you broke out in a rash, your massage therapist needs to know that. So when they see you, they know, oh, it's a rash from a medication, not something that could be, you know, contagious. So those are important things. But I think the most important thing is having a rapport and a relationship and to, you know, connect with someone and feel good. And then you go from there.
Thank you for all the information. I want to give a shout out to Nicole Trainer, who put some information in the chat about sexual health, at-home STI test. And Nicole mentioned to look into www.havegoodsex.org and also takemehome.org. And Nicole says Alameda County and San Francisco County are offering free in-home lab-based testing kits. So if anybody who can't see that in the chat, just wanted you to have that information. And Rashid, who organized this, wanted to say something or had a question. Oh, look how you magically came on the screen like that. Rashid is here.
Oh, he's muted. Hold on.
Yeah.
Oh, there he goes.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you all so much. This has really been exciting listening to you all and just inspiring. I wanted to briefly respond to the question about people experiencing homelessness, and I actually have a question as well. First, I think that when I think of the different the stages people experience with homelessness, people maybe think of the chronic homelessness, where we now see folks with encampments and in a lot of different situations. And I think with what you all mentioned as well, that, you know, it's often, I think it was Jenny who mentioned, it's often hidden as well. So we know people are, between a lot of places, and whether living with other folks, between cars. And so there's also the transitional phase as well. And so anyway, I think with just the different stages, I think another element of the crisis right now is also preventing further homelessness during a pandemic in which we've been told to shelter in place. And so some of the things that we've seen during the pandemic are things like Project Room Key, where solutions that people have called for a long time, like opening up hotels and vacant housing, Moms for Housing, reclaiming a home from a speculator. There are a lot of things that may not have seemed possible in 2019 that people have been doing over the last few years. And then additionally, it's preventing more people from experiencing homelessness, where we maintain policies that keep people stable in their communities. And so there's been eviction moratoriums that have been in place. These have often been sidestepped in a lot of different communities and places, but you know, if we're able to keep people in their homes, then we can keep people from being homeless or experiencing homelessness. So I just wanted to add that to the conversation. And then, you know, within the Alameda context, there's a lot of groups that have been doing different work like that, from Alameda Point Collaborative to the Alameda, Alameda Medical and Respite Center. There's this effort to create a space over there by Crab Cove to care for elders who have chronic illnesses. Building Futures, there's a place for women who survived survived domestic violence. And so or Midway Shelter is the name of it, but there are all resources that are in Alameda as well. I was curious with you all, if there's any habits that y'all have developed during the pandemic that y'all hoping to keep going.
One more time. Uh-oh, he got muted. Did he get muted?
Yeah.
He said, any habits that we've picked up during the pandemic that you want to keep going? I don't know if he said wanted to take it away.
Yeah, I think I would assume it's a good habit that you want to keep going during the pandemic. You might have some bad habits that you want to keep going.
Look, Rashid, I have mastered these brown butter chocolate chip cookies, and it's a good habit. And you know, I don't know if I'm going to give that habit up. So I'm just saying it's a great habit. A good habit, you know, I started doing some like a gratitude, aside from like my prayer or anything else, but just kind of like listing like some gratitude in the morning, especially like sometimes times are stress, anxiety comes up. You feel like you're like, why am I anxious? I have, everything is good. I'm just getting up in the morning. And I found that that's been really helpful for me. It's just kind of like listing all the things that I'm grateful for. And that's something I've seen in my like friendship groups, my sister groups, that we kind of just like, if we're venting or complaining, then we just stop and then just say, here's all the things I'm grateful for. And so I found that that's been, you know, really helpful. I think gratitude is catching. If it's you start it and then someone else thinks about it, and before you know, you're kind of in this gratitude kind of vibe. So that's a good habit I want to keep.
I don't know if this habit is because I'm always working on habits. That's kind of how I started Train the Brain in the first place, is identifying bad habits and challenging them. So I'm always working on habits. But one recent habit, you know, people always talk about pride. And I didn't understand until recently exactly how foolish pride is detrimental to a lot of people. And so one of the things that I've been putting into practice, a habit that I've been working on, is checking pride, not being prideful, and always, because there's always a solution, and you always get to the solution as soon as you get to logic and get over emotion. And pride is, emotion is attached to pride. So one of the habits that I've been really focusing on, and it's felt great, it's really empowering, is whenever I'm faced with bad energy, I know Jasmine was talking about energy of other people, not allowing that to necessarily put me on the defense of being prideful and trying to stand my ground, but being able to control my energy and get to a solution without being prideful. Because sometimes that, oftentimes it costs you when you're prideful, even when you're faced with bad energy from someone else. So I don't want to cost myself because of someone else. So that's something I've been putting into practice as we're going great.
Parish out here, gem dropping.
Some good advice.
Buy the book, buy the book.
Gem dropping. I think I'm seeing a lot of this in the chat, and I must say that I love the outdoors, but I love the outdoors even more. So spending more time, I think a habit that I've started to really get to was getting back to connecting with the earth. I come from people who have worked the earth, right? That is, and I lost that. And I don't know where, everybody in my family, they are garden, I'm talking about farmers, you know, obviously I've come from folks who have literally been slaves and tilled the land of this country. And I used to be known in my family as a place where people would let their plants go and die. And so over the pandemic, what I've learned was I needed to connect back with the earth, spending more time in nature, having plants. And it was taking some time to have some peace and some quiet and connecting with things that grow. And I think it was really time for me to connect with things that grow, in a time where it felt like everything else was dying. And that was something for me that really it hit me different a little bit, right? So being in nature, being with people that I love in nature, having nature around me, especially want to add to we had the pandemic, and then we also had year-round fire season, right? So it was just there was this smoke in the air. When I wanted to go outside, I was like, you had the regular mask, and you had to have the 95 mask because you had the fire mask. So it was just I needed to create something to connect me with the earth, even when I wasn't outside. And so I'm growing plants, and I'm loving it. So that's something that I definitely want to, and I have been able to maintain for 2 years now. So everybody else in my face that said I couldn't grab it.
Yeah.
Do we have maybe space for one more question?
Is there a question in the chat?
Let me see. Thank you, Jasmine. Fairyland. Oh, I love Fairyland.
Yes, Fairyland is awesome.
Well, I don't have kids, but when I used to babysit, I used to go with them to Fairyland all the time.
I don't see someone asked one stop to have all of us to have everyone in one place under one umbrella. Since we're almost towards the end, I just want to ask if everyone can let us know where we can find you, and also too, if you want to put that in the chat too as well, and also too, just any information that we didn't cover, any parting words, or anything we didn't cover and you just want us to know that is a benefit for our health. Please impart your wisdom.
Anybody can go, or are we doing this in order?
Anybody can go.
Well, I'm Train the Brain Fit Club. If you put it in Google, Train the Brain Fit Club, you will find everything. My IG is at Train the Brain Fit Club. My website is trainthebrainfitclub.com. So pretty easy, Train the Brain Fit Club. I think that this platform was great. I know that this is Black History Month, but I think history is made every month. So I would not mind being a part of something past February if it were an opportunity to do so. So y'all let me know. I feel like I would like to connect with the ladies that were on here tonight and continue to share information in any way that we can. So any way we can do that, bring that together, whether it's through Rashid or whatever, I think that we can make that bridge and connection, and we deserve to put that information out there consistently, not just tonight.
Yes. Black history is every day.
Yes.
Black future is every day. Yes.
Yes, I would like to piggyback on that, if that's okay. Yeah, would really love to stay in touch with all 4 of you, Rashid, 5 of you, with you included. There was a lot of great information that needs to be heard and that needs to be shared and that needs to be further distributed. I just want to call you all out real quick again. Thank you, Leela Richardson. Thank you, Jasmine Canfield. Thank you, Parish Norfleet. Thank you, Janae Darden. Such a wonderful moderation. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you. And I want them to get, and I want the other 2 panelists to, they're gonna add
Yeah,
other words too. So I want to make
we
sure.
have 3 more minutes because we need to set the library alarm.
Oh, okay. So like make it quick. Sorry, 1 minute, 30
Sorry
seconds,
about
everybody. Go ahead. Yeah. Or Jasmine can go.
Thank you, Rashid, who's already putting our IG in there, so I appreciate that. I'm here on the island. I have a practice here and a mobile practice as far as massage therapy and doula care and just Alameda Maker Farm. I'm there as well. And I just would love to see some more Black and brown faces at the Alameda Maker Farm. And I'm gonna let Jasmine get in there too.
Okay, so my social media is still kind of, but you can find me, and I'll put it in the chat, Sankofa Healing Heart on Instagram, so you can @ me. And then I'll put my email there, which I'm here at Highland Hospital, which is, you can find me if you can actually Google me, because mental health workers all have to be posted. So you can Google me and I will pop up if you just put Jasmine Canfield, LCSW. So, so you will be able to find me there.
And I'm JanaeDarden.com. I'm actually launching a new show on Thursday at 5 o'clock for KLW. So that launches this week. You can check me out on KLW 91.7 FM, klw.org, JanaeDarden.com. This is recorded, so you can go back and watch this and share with people that you know. Thank you so much to Alameda Library. Thank you so much to Rashid Shabazz for bringing us all together. Jenny, anything else before you go home? Because I know you are ready to go home and off the clock. I'm not mad.
I just want to thank the city of Alameda real quick. That's it. And then we got it all covered.
All right. Good health to everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you,
everyone.
Thank you.